What's up, guys? It's Taylor with Manual Builders, and we are here for part three of the hairdo theory. This is the series that we have going on to help you enhance your mindset and continue to grow in this season of quarantine. So, for part three, we have hands down my best friend on the planet, Barrett Perry. We've been friends for, I don't know, like 17 years or something crazy like that. But the cool thing about Barrett being on is that he is a CPA. So, Barrett, give them a little history just so they know who we're talking to.
Hey guys, like you said, my name is Barrett Perry. I'm a CPA. I've been practicing since I think 2012. I went to UL, have a bachelor's degree in accounting, and got an MBA. Sat for the CPA exam, passed it, and the rest is history. Um, so I do specialize in tax. I specialize in individuals, businesses, many different diverse tax situations, and good bit going on these days that involve taxes. So.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. So, I think what Barrett's gonna be able to speak to today is a little bit on the tax side, a little bit on the COVID relief and stuff like that. So, let's just jump right in. So, one of the main things that I definitely don't understand about the new W-4, not that I understood the old W-4, because I had to call you for that too, but they changed the withholdings on W-4s, right? So, if somebody gets a new job after COVID or they want to rework their withholdings, how exactly does that work?
That's probably one of the most common questions I get. I get calls all the time. Hey, I started a new job. What do I put? The way I usually put it is this is what controls whether or not you're going to have a refund or you're going to owe. What a lot of people don't quite understand about filing their tax return is it's exactly that. The return part in tax return is the return of money that you've overpaid to the system. So if you're getting a big refund, it's probably because you paid more than you were supposed to. Now that being said, some people like a big refund. I personally, I like that because otherwise I would probably not have the discipline to save that kind of money throughout the year.
Yeah.
Um, so this is largely controlled by what you put on that W-4 whenever you start at a new job. What I usually tell people, the new W-4, I believe, it's got a basic name block at the top, name, address, social, and then it asks your filing status. It'll say, single, married, filing joint. Um, One option that I usually recommend to people is if you've been owing for years and you don't know what to do, I would say even if you're married, you could still mark single. And if you mark single, that's going to wind up being the highest withholding throughout the year, and it'll almost guarantee a refund. I mean, unless you're self-employed, but that's more circumstances to that. But in the most basic of scenarios, if you just mark single and then you don't put any dependents, no child tax credit, anything like that, it's going to withhold the max. And if that's all your income is that W-2, you'll probably have a refund. Um, Now, they did change it a little bit. It used to be, talking about credits and sorry about that. Um, it used to ask for the number of exemptions you had, and you had to go and they had this very complicated worksheet in the back. All that they did away with that. They tried to make it a little more streamlined with the new W-4. Um, and so, however many children you have, if you want to factor that in, for every child you have under 18, they would qualify for the child tax credit, which is about $2,000. So that's factored in on that W-4. So if you put married filing joint, for example, and you have two children, well, you would put $4,000, 2,000 for each of those children.
Right.
So if you do that, it'll kind of factor that in withholding and won't withhold quite as much. But that being said, I mean, if you want to over withhold, even if you're married, even if you have children, the best way of doing it is just put single. And if you're over withholding at the end of the year, you're getting tired of these huge refunds and you want it to be a little bit more in your paycheck day to day, then, kind of adjust it backwards, scale it back from there.
Yeah. So essentially, it's case by case. If I want more money once a year in a big lump sum, then I withhold everything. And if I
Hmm.
want more money throughout the year every month, then I could just adjust that number.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
Um,
I think two things that people can relate to right now. One is the kids in the background. Anybody that's quarantined right now can understand what's going on over there, and that's totally fine. The other thing is that I think if anybody wants a specific scenario for their finances, we're going to tag you in this post anyway. Feel free to reach out to Barrett. You guys can go sit down and talk to him. Look at the entire scope of everything, because you definitely can't make a decision based on just withholdings alone, right? So
exactly, and I'm always open to just quick questions. Like the kind of joke around. I say I'm not a lawyer. I don't charge you by the minute. So if it's a 5 minute call, you're not going to get billed.
if any
Um,
lawyers are watching, he does lawyers taxes too.
yeah. So
So let's talk about the PPP real quick, just for business owners and what that looks like right now.
well, it sounds almost like a scam actually. The PPP loan, you keep it here, the payroll protection program. Um, this was something that that Congress enacted, and it's meant to help cover payroll for companies with 500 employees or less, and it's meant to cover payroll costs for 2 months, approximately 2 months. And it's initially set up as a loan, um, but if you follow their criteria, it's 100% forgiven. So, I mean, this is huge. Um, I mean, I'd say damn near 90% of the companies in America could apply for this thing. Included in that is sole proprietors. I mean, if you're a self-employed guy, working construction, whatever, if you're getting paid 1099, you're probably eligible for this thing. So I highly recommend it. I mean, we're almost on the tail end of the program at this point. It's been really popular, but you never know. They may add some more funding to it. I know they're working on a bill right now. Um, so the thing about the PPP loan, if you think you could qualify for it, contact your local banker. The local banks, the national banks, they're all doing it, and they can give you a little more information. And then a lot of times, we've getting calls at my office, and we can kind of help you get the stuff together to run the numbers for it. But if you're just curious about whether or not you qualify, pick up the phone, call your banker, call your CPA, and there's money to be had.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that resounds through this entire conversation is that you need a CPA. TurboTax is great, but I definitely don't know enough about all this stuff to try and
uh,
wing it on my own.
I'll be the first one to tell you, if all you have is a W-2 and you're single, probably could do your tax on TurboTax. But anything more complicated, you get married and you have children, it's worth hiring a CPA. It really
Yeah.
is. The tax code's really complicated. It really is, and I get more clients from do it yourself hack jobs that I gotta go and amend and fix them, and
Yeah.
it, it's worth it. It really is, guys.
Yeah, it's like when you're renovating your house, it's always better to pay somebody that knows what they're doing
Mhm.
than to try and do it yourself. So let's talk about one last thing. This is probably across the board for everyone because this affected everyone. Is the stimulus? Um, I know it was a certain amount based on your relationship status or the amount of kids you had, dependents, all that kind of stuff. What exactly? Where's this coming from? What's it going to? Or am I going to have to pay it back?
Yeah, that's some great questions, and my phone's been ringing off the hook with it, honestly. Um, so let's see, where do we even get started with this one? So so as of right now, um, everybody, if you're married, a married couple, and I think and don't quote me on the exact dollar amounts here, but I believe if you make less than 150,000 and you're a married couple, you are eligible for the stimulus money. If you make between 150,000 and 200,000, then you're in the phase out range, so you're not going to get the whole thing. You'll get prorated, so it'll be slightly reduced. If you're above 200, then unfortunately you're not going to qualify for this money. There are some different dollar amounts that would apply to like head of household, so basically a single person with a child, or single individuals also have a different threshold. Um, but it gets really complicated. It seems like such a simple thing, but we've had so many questions, just scenarios people are throwing at us. A lot of it has to do with dependents. Generally speaking, the rule has been if you have a dependent that is 17 years or younger, you do qualify for an additional $500. So if, let's say, you have a married couple, so right off the back, 1,212, and so you got 2,400 coming to you. And then if you have a child under 17, then you're looking at an extra 500 for each of those children. Um, I'm not aware of a max on that. So if you have a lot of children, you could very well. I mean, I think you had gotten you got three children, so you got
three dependents.
yeah. So I don't know if I've seen a scenario with more than three yet, but I don't know that there's a limit on it. So it's a good thing to know. One of the unfortunate things that we've seen is, let's say you have a child that you're supporting that's in college. You claim them as a dependent on your tax return, but they're over that 17 years of age. In that situation, you actually don't get any stimulus money for. You don't get that stimulus money, and neither does the college age, dependent. Which to me is kind of a rough situation for a lot of people. It's unfortunate. Um, there's been talk, some people want to go and amend their return to try and not claim as a dependent, but I mean, you're opening a huge can of worms with all that.
Yeah.
The other thing that we've noticed is we've had older people, you're claiming your grandma that lives at the house with you, that type of situation, or a disabled child. It's the way it was written. It doesn't look like there's any loopholes for that type of stuff. So it's been kind of rough on that regard. So if you're claiming someone as a dependent and they're over 17 years of age, they're not going to get the stimulus money, and neither are you. So that's been a pretty big one. One other thing that's probably worth mentioning with the stimulus funds, if you are a non-filer, what I mean by non-filer, let's say your only income is Social Security. You're below the standard deduction. So a single person, the standard deduction is approximately $12,000. So if you made less than $12,000, technically you have no filing obligation. If you're not being claimed as a dependent, you're still eligible for the money, but the government is using 2018 and 2019 tax information to distribute the stimulus funds. So where I'm going with this is that there's a portal on it's www.irs.gov, and on that front page there's a link, and it's where's my payment. You go there and you can provide bank account information. That bank account information will allow them to do direct deposit to your bank account. That'll work for someone like, let's say you owe every year. Well, they're not going to have your bank account information, so you would enter it in right there, which will allow you to get your refund a lot quicker, or not your refund, your stimulus payment a lot quicker. Yeah. So we've had quite a bit of that. It asks for some very basic information. You key that in, and you'll get it in the next round of stimulus funds they distribute. Actually, I think I might have misspoke. If you're a non-filer, that website that I just listed, that is not for you. That is for if you didn't have a refund in the past. Let's say you owe every year. If you owe, they're not going to have your bank account information. So that link I was just explaining, that is where you would go if you need to put in your bank account information to get direct deposit. If you don't do that and you are eligible, they're going to send the check in the mail. Another good, just silver lining to all this, if you are eligible and you miss out for some reason or another, you didn't know you were eligible, or it just didn't happen. I know there's been talk, people are like, am I going to have to repay this? Well, in 2020, when we file tax returns, we're going to have some additional reporting we're going to have to do, and we're going to have to report how much stimulus funds were received, and we'll have to check the eligibility criteria. So that being said, let's say you were above the income limit and somehow you wound up getting stimulus funds. Well, you may have to pay that back on the 2020 tax return if you were ineligible, you see. But let's say you didn't get the money and you were supposed to, well, you'll get a credit on your 20 tax return. So you'll either have a bigger refund or, offset of tax up to that amount.
Yeah, so you
Um,
were supposed to get it. You're going to get it at some
you'll get
point.
it, yeah. One way or the other, you're going to get it. So, if you miss out on the initial direct deposit of those funds, or if they stop cutting checks, it'll get settled up eventually.
Yeah.
So, that there's at least that.
So if there was
Um,
any question about your stimulus money, whether you didn't get it and you don't know why, or you think you may have gotten too much, pick up the phone and call because it could really affect your 2020 return, right?
yeah, yeah. And as you can tell, it's a complicated topic. Every situation is different. So I do recommend if you're not sure, if you think you're eligible and you didn't get any money, pick up the phone, call your local CPA, and hash it out, and they can probably point you in the right direction and tell you if you actually are eligible. Um, it's definitely pretty
Yeah.
important. I recommend though, if you can get in there, I certainly recommend getting them your information one way or the other, because they may do a second round of stimulus checks. We don't know for sure. I know there's talks right now. I know the House had passed something, but from what I understand, it was dead on arrival in the Senate. But I expect eventually there's going to be some bipartisan compromise, and they may very well will have some more funding for some of these programs like the PPP loans, or like I said, I could see some stimulus payments going out. We'll just kind of see how this goes, but um, if at all possible, if you think there's a chance that you're supposed to get that money, give us a call.
Cool. So I think we've touched on probably the three main topics. I know there's so much that you could go into as far as taxes and how to file and what to file and all these different calculations and stuff that I can't even begin to comprehend, which is why you go to school for as long as you did. Um, but if anybody has any specific questions about your scenario, Barrett, maybe you can give contact information, a phone number, an email address. That way they can reach out to you directly and try and get some help.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, my email address is barrett@lbkcpa.net, and my phone number, if you need to contact me, is 337-893-6232. And like I said, I'm always willing to take a phone call. I'm not going to nickel and dime you to death. To me, I like to see people get what's owed to them, and um, I don't want anyone to pay a dime in taxes that they're not supposed to pay. Uh, I know it's rough out there, and that it's very important to me to make sure people. I mean, I was getting my haircut the other day, and I was asking, "Did you get your stimulus money?" Because if not, I was going to tell her how to do it. I just volunteered, so
Yeah.
I'm more than happy. So
Well,
please pick up the phone call.
that's one of the great things about Barrett, guys, is that he is definitely people centered. He cares about people. So if you want to reach out to him, what's the name of your company one more time, just so that and
Oh,
your
it's
location, so that they know.
Long Lemonade Broussard and Kohlenberg. We're located in Abbeville. Um, it's really not that far. I drive there every day. I live in Lafayette, and I drive to Abbeville. It's really not that bad. So
Yeah, and if it means getting all of your finances taken care of, just get in the car and drive 15 minutes to go talk to him. So, Barrett, thanks for coming on part three of the hairdo theory. I know for sure if people want to come on and give you a call, talk more about specific scenarios, they can. I know we didn't have a ton of time to be able to dive into stuff, but
yeah.
thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me, and thank you for putting up with Charlie running around his walker.
Yeah. All right, guys, we will see you next week.